It's April 24th, and I'll call to order the meeting of the Middlebury Development Review Board. The first thing I'll do is go over the agenda briefly. We have public communications, the approval of minutes, and two business items on the agenda. An application by Farmers Market for a conditional use, and an application by John Rouse for a conditional use and subdivision. If anybody is interested in speaking at tonight's meeting, please make sure you sign the sign-up sheet, which would be over there. Okay. First item on the agenda, public communications. Are there any items that anybody wants to mention that are not on the agenda tonight? Hearing none. Next item is the approval of minutes of 4/10/2017. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion on the motion? Questions on the minutes? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of minutes of 2/28/17.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions, discussion?
Yes.
Ann?
Lines 273 and 274 doesn't make any sense. I think that the sentence beginning on 272 and the sentence beginning on 273 are perhaps intended to be written together. I mean, if you read that sentence starting, if the issue of number of vehicles, doesn't make any sense.
$172 or $272?
272 to 274.
There are at least two possibilities for what it could be. It could either be one sentence made into two, or the second sentence could be, it is the issue of number of vehicles that is
Yeah.
gaining a lane.
Should we be suggesting a clarification, or is that something that Victor and Jen would be doing?
The issue is the number of vehicles.
So the sentence beginning with if should instead, as David
If the issue,
said, might,
if the issue
it is?
Well,
Would that,
I think maybe he meant that he could come up with a stair-step plan if the issue preventing him from getting
Right.
that CO
Is the number of vehicles.
is the number of vehicles.
Yeah, so
Is
it's,
that the only thing? That wasn't the only thing, was it, Jen?
well,
Just
no,
the vehicle
no.
count wasn't the difference.
No.
Well, that was a major part of it, though.
Yes, but we're just dealing with that sentence.
I
those
think you're
two
just dealing with the grammar part. I think what we do is take out that period, then, you know, it's a grammar, we'll just fix the grammar, take out the
Okay.
period
Okay.
and put that is, if the issue is the number of vehicles, then it's sustaining them from getting a
Okay.
certificate of occupancy.
Sense.
Yeah, we'll just fix that grammar issue.
Any other comments on the minutes? All in favor of the approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. First item on the business agenda, an application by Middlebury Farmers Market for a conditional use review of a proposal to locate a farmers market at the Veterans of Foreign Wars property located at 530 Exchange Street in the General Commercial District. If you'd like to come forward, and I will administer the oath for anybody that is going to give testimony. I affirm that the evidence and information I am giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief. Okay. All right.
Is a simple nod suffices?
Sure, that's
Okay. I do. I will. Thanks, everyone, for hearing our application. My name is Hannah Sessions. I know many of you. I've been a member at the Farmers Market for 15 years now. Although going way back, it was my first summer job when I was 12 years old. So it's very near and dear to my heart. I've been serving as the president. This is my 3rd year as the president of the board. We have some other board members here today, Joan Cook, Sharon Kerwin, and Spencer Blackwell. We also have Bob Crosby and Charlie Palmer from the VFW who joined us to support our application today. So basically, many of you know we've been located at the Marble Works since 1993, correct, Joan? Since 1995. First, we were on the grass by the waterfalls, which was lovely. But then the Marble Works District wanted to redo that grass, and so we got moved to and we worked with them, and we moved to the northern side of the parking lot. And that has worked for several years, but with the talk of the railroad construction, and a lot of the construction equipment was going to be stored there in the Marble Works, they did not renew our lease. So we started looking for a new home last summer, and we did an extensive search. We had a whole volunteer committee from the market. We looked at a number of spots, and the VFW emerged as the best potential site for our market. So I kind of gave you some background in the cover letter, but we have 38 vendors on any given Saturday. That's an average. We have a really great farmers market. We were courted by several businesses on Exchange Street to hold the market in their vicinity because I think they see us as an economic driver. We're here today to ask you 3 things. First, to simply hold our farmers market at the VFW. Second, we would really love to plant a permanent sign on the grassy area where our market is going to be. And third, we need to ask to hold our market within the 30-day window. And the reason for that is we did not know that we needed to get a permit. It's sort of unprecedented. We never have gotten a permit before. I asked Ryan, who's the manager of the Marble Works, and he never went through the permit process. So it came as a surprise to us, but we're very happy to have gone through the process. But for that reason, our first market is set to be on May 6th. So we ask that you grant us a waiver to hold our market within that 30-day window of time. And I believe in your packet you see our site map. You see a design of this sign that we would like. I also included summer vendor attendance so that the reason we drew up 2 maps is vendor attendance is very different on Wednesdays and on Saturdays. So we drew up a site plan A for a quote-unquote typical market, so that would be like a slower market. And you'll see that ample parking spaces, so 51 cars. That's way more than we ever had at the Marble Works. So that is every Wednesday, and that is on the slower Saturdays. Site plan B is for our busy market Saturdays. So that would probably start around the 4th of July and go through Columbus Day weekend. That brings us down to 34 parking spaces, which is what we had designated at the Marble Works also. When we were at the Marble Works, we used the Addison Independent parking lot as our designated parking spot. So this is advantageous in a lot of ways because you don't have to cross the street to get to the market from where you park. It's a little less congested out at this location on Exchange Street. But you can see that we have barriers located at strategic points. We dealt with barriers at the Marble Works location as well. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I guess one of my questions might be to the VFW. So no weddings will take place at the VFW until after 12:30 on a Saturday, right?
That's correct. We don't officially open until 1 o'clock.
Okay. I think it's a great location.
Yeah.
Just, it relieves that congestion in the Marble Works, so I'm pleased that you found a home. So,
I have a question for the VFW also. Do you guys have any objection to sharing a sign with them? The zoning area calls for one sign on the premises, one. And if we put two there, everybody in the world's going to want another sign.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
So as long as the farmer's market's willing to build a new sign, it seems to me that they could put the VFW on it too, and remove yours and put it in storage or whatever. I don't know what, I can't remember what you have for a sign there.
I didn't measure the sign when I looked at it, the one that's there now, but my thought was possibly talking to the VFW about removing the planting box that's underneath their sign and using that space there, if they're agreeable to it, to add to their sign, assuming that the total signage there meets the size requirements.
Yeah, that would work.
There's a tiny little picture in the staff memo of the sign, if that's helpful. Might be kind of small, though.
I don't know how.
Underneath the,
We'd rather not disturb your signage.
So,
At all?
well, it's built, it has those brick pillars on either side to which it's erected.
Do you, at this point, you've never had a permanent sign?
Well, at the Marble Works, we have as you enter the Marble Works, right by the Addison Independent, you'll see Marble Works, and then it has little signs of businesses in the Marble Works. So we had a permanent sign
Yes.
there, but not of our own, no.
It's sandwich boards, right? Sandwich board.
We
type
have
sign.
sandwich boards, yeah. We were really looking forward to moving away from sandwich board signs and just have just a permanent sign saying, home of the farmer's market.
so could we, Kevin, could we move this along and let them use the sandwich board until such time they come back with a plan to do
Oh, yeah,
something on the
they can
sign?
they can use temporary signs all they want, as long as you.
On the day of the markets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can continue to do that,
Yeah, as long as they're within the time limits.
yes.
Yeah. Give you an opportunity to work this out with a more permanent.
It is a good point, though, that it's not like the VFW sign is not one you can easily build
No,
onto.
it would be difficult to
Yeah.
change how that sign lays there.
Yeah.
The problem we have, though, is that we don't have the power to go against the regulations as they exist right now. So there's nothing we can't give a waiver.
And as Gary said, it will lead to a lot of businesses requesting the same thing.
Signs are a nightmare.
Signs are valuable.
They're a nightmare from a regulation.
I have a further question about the parking on Saturdays. That is your busiest day.
Yeah.
And, since you'll be moving out of town, or further out of the center of town, is there going to be a larger need for parking spaces on Saturdays? So that 30 that plus that you had at the
Oh.
Marble Works, are you going to need more?
Well, our hope is that we're going to encourage some more alternative transportation. We're going to have bike racks out there. We're going to work with Actar and sort of advertise the fact that the bus will go there for free. It's part of the in-town loop. But it's a good question. We sort of did an informal survey at the market last summer, and like 80% of the customers still drove there, even when it was at the Marble Works. So that was kind of surprising to us, but
But they can park in the center of town and walk down. They don't have that.
that's true.
They don't have access.
There was numerous
That's
times
true.
last year that I went to go to the farmer's market, and I couldn't find a parking place, and I didn't go. Because I was
Wow.
not gonna park over on the other
Yeah.
side of the building and
Well,
walk
that's good to
over
hear.
there.
Yeah,
Go buy some fresh tomatoes.
right.
Have you made any progress talking with businesses neighbouring the VFW property about using their spaces on Saturdays?
We have, we've reached out to Casellas right across the street, and I think they were checking with their higher-ups.
Right, they haven't returned before.
So Casellas across the street is an option. There are the state offices, two buildings up on
Middlebury
the right.
College. That's a college, but
College.
Used to be state office.
used to be a state
Oh,
office.
okay. Well, my understanding is that they're generally closed on Saturdays, and so that's an option. It's a bit of a walk, but.
Is there any way to walk from there to the VFW lot without walking along the side of the road?
Well, there's a really generous shoulder there.
Right, but is there a way around that? Because I can foresee that plenty of people would prefer to park on the shoulder if all they want are 2 or 3 things than go
Right.
inside if it looks pretty full already and look for a space.
Right.
I
Right.
think you want to prevent people from parking along the shoulder. I don't
Yeah.
know how.
Well, like Tom's concern is making sure, if they do it, not on both sides of the road.
Right. So that was a suggestion made by the police department
Right.
that we think was a good idea to,
East side.
on busy Saturdays, we would plant signs on the west side of the
That would be
road
it,
saying,
yeah.
no parking this side.
And on Wednesdays, given the traffic on that road, there probably shouldn't be any parking on either side.
I don't think Wednesdays will be an issue, because in our site plan A, we have 51 parking
Right.
spots.
Right.
Fewer vendors, so I don't think Wednesday will be an issue. It's just those few Saturdays.
I'm just looking at the Wednesday versus the weekend. Does the weekend provide fewer parking places than
Yes.
the Wednesday?
Yes. they get
Because we have more vendors.
Okay.
The plans don't really show all the parking spaces. There are 6 rows of parking spaces in that lot, and we really only see 2 of them on these plans.
Right, because the eastern two are always consumed by vendors.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah, it's not drawn to scale. There's 17 spots in each row. Yep.
Casellas closes at noon traditionally on Saturday. And so you probably could, that would give you a good relief for some extra parking if they would go along with that.
Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't, but
How late are you open on Saturday?
12:30.
Yeah,
Half an hour.
they wouldn't
Right.
need those spaces at that time.
pardon me?
I don't think they'd need those spaces at that time,
10 o'clock, they'd be-
because there wouldn't be that much left.
Yeah. Right.
I'd say our like, the busiest time at the market is probably 11 to 12:30. Would you guys say that's true? Well, goat cheese people sleep in, so. Veggie people get up early.
Question on the traffic flow. Since it's not the scale, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But as these cars come in and
Uh-huh.
park here, and then they back out, can they come this way to turn around? Or are they gonna be backing into this?
I believe they can because it's not solid parking all the way to the north side of the lot there. Correct, Bob?
So there's a lot more room here than what it looks like on this.
Yes.
Yes.
Beside the built, well, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's actually,
that
In looking
was-
at the bird's eye view of the VFW lot, it does extend further to the north than the amount of space is shown on the drawing that they did up.
Yeah.
They're also very generous spaces. So like, I made a note on the site plan B that each parking space is 16 feet long.
Right.
and the spaces between the rows from
20
end of
24.
car to end of car
24
is
feet.
very wide.
Yeah, 24 feet.
It's generous, it's on the generous side of standard for a two-way drive
Yeah,
aisle.
yeah.
I mean, I don't, yeah, I think that most people who park in that row of parking that you're talking about will in fact back and drive directly out, rather than go deeper into the,
I think you're gonna find that this new location is gonna generate more people to your farmer's market than you had in the Marble Works.
I think so, too.
I hope you're
I think
right.
people will say, I can drive to it, I get out of the car, go buy what I gotta do, get in my car and leave.
Yeah. That's the key part there, the leaving,
Right.
to make
Hurry up
room for
and buy
someone
and
else.
leave. Yeah.
so with regard to off-site parking, I think, I mean, Chief Hamley's not saying that he doesn't want to see any on-street parking, right?
Right.
He's saying he doesn't want to see it on both sides, he wants to see it managed. I think that you will see, it's a tough ask for people. I mean, Don's exactly right. You will see more people come into this
Yeah, you
area
will.
who, or at least different people.
Right, different people.
And it's a tough ask to park them off-site at the college or even at Casella, because then you got to cross a road.
Yeah.
It's a mental thing, it's a psychological thing. I think that a place like Casella or the college would be an excellent place if you have the opportunity to disappear some vendor vehicles or
That's what I
staff
was
vehicles.
Yeah.
gonna say, to get your vendor vehicles.
Any staff or vendor vehicles you can disappear. That's
Well,
great.
almost all of our vendors have their vehicles with them,
Yeah.
so, but absolutely, yeah.
But as the summer progresses, you have different markets, different stuff that you're bringing in that attracts different types of people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the fall, you got
Sure.
your potatoes and different things.
Right.
Yeah, so
You-
early on, you're probably not going to attract a lot of people
Right,
like
so,
you would in August.
right, the real test will be Memorial Day weekend
Right.
market if the weather's nice and, right. But yes, the market starts out slower, so it gives us a chance to kind of test our legs a little bit.
So I have a procedural question. When we're approving a permit like this, I mean, I'm in mind of Vinegar and the approval of a parking plan that then has to face reality. When we approve a permit for a permit like this, with a site plan submitted, I mean, I think, to what extent have we historically held a permittee to a plan like this? Not really.
We don't have any the continuing jurisdiction we talked about kind of
What we've
dies
seen
here
is that
tonight.
there's proof, if we all agree, there's
Right.
proof that it works in this configuration.
Yeah.
That's what we're really talking about.
And the enforcement of overflow will really be a matter for Chief Hanley.
Yeah.
If the idea that you would put no parking signs on the west side of Exchange Street is probably a good one. And if he doesn't like what the parking is on the east side, or maybe it's the north side, I don't know, you know, your side, the
east,
VFW side, then presumably, I mean, we don't have any jurisdiction over parking on that either, so that would be up to him to enforce with whatever laws he has at his disposal.
The bottom line is Vermont law says you cannot leave a vehicle on the travel portion of the highway. Not lawful.
Yeah.
So if you
Well,
get
there's
to
not
us-
room to be all the way off the travel portion of the highway there, unless you have a very skinny car.
That's a user-friendly thing. What the police, how they recognize the problem is how they're going to react to fixing it. If tractor trailers have an issue getting through there, then it would be a problem. If nobody complains, like David said, we can't yank their permit because we go by there and
Respond to
on
David's
Memorial Day
comments.
weekend, there's cars both sides of the road.
Jen?
Jen has some.
So when you're thinking about the Denneker plan, it feels weird to enforce that parking plan like so specifically.
Right.
But the reason that you do it on Denneker is because his variance and his continuation of a non-conforming use in that district both hinged on the intensity of the use. And the way that the board chose to word that decision was that the intensity of the use deals with the number of cars and where those cars are. So that's what makes that parking plan so important there. And that's why when we did G-Stone, we tried to stay away from the number of cars, because that is, a really tricky thing to enforce going forward. Like the number of cars and where they were that he was creating in that additional parking. But on this one, it would be nice, in the absence of a parking calculation that tells us how much parking we're supposed to be coming up with, to come up with some sort of, 30 to 40 cars, or some sort of range of how much parking they think they're going to generate, so that in the future, if they're generating a lot more, they can come back for an amendment to this decision, and we could look at it again. That's my suggestion on that one, rather than like really where they're going to be on the plan.
Yeah, they may tweak it some.
Right, yeah, they might decide to keep the vendors in the front and the customers in the back, or
It's
use
going to
more
be a
lawn
work in
space.
progress, basically, until
Yeah.
you get comfortable with it, and then it may look entirely different than you're presenting here.
Right.
If the intensity of use ends up being like 60, 80 customers on a weekend, you might want to look at that again.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, is do we want to, I think you have strong support for this project on the board, but I could imagine support eroding if this thing, if Don's right and you just
Blow it out of the
become the
water.
Hannaford of farmers markets.
Right.
But these spaces rotate too, probably every
Good point.
half an hour?
Hopefully.
Right. So
Is that what you expect them, have you ever done a
Spencer
survey?
has had a ratio where he figured out, well, it's in my letter here. He estimated, he used some, where did you get?
It was really wild speculation, to be honest. We've never done an official customer count. Based on the sales of dollar amounts and rough idea of how much each customer spends, I made an educated guess that we, on a busy market, would have about 500 people attend. And then that doesn't mean that they all came in separate cars. So I guess that, we'll say 2 cars per person puts us at
Two people per car.
two people, yeah.
Yeah.
2 people per car puts us at 250 cars. Divide
Right.
our 3.5 hours by each car staying there for a half hour, which was what I guessed too. It comes to no more than 40 cars there at a time.
Yeah.
Wild speculation, but that's the best we could come up with.
And those numbers might turn over much faster than at the Marble
they
Works,
will,
because
definitely.
I've been to the farmer's market and gone to the bookstore and the tea shop and the
Right.
pharmacy.
That's a
There
good
won't
point.
be those opportunities
Yeah.
in the new location.
I
So-
think you're gonna go there, make your purchase and leave.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
Nothing else to hold you to that area.
I'd just like to congratulate Spencer for being the first author of a traffic study to admit the obvious truth, which is that traffic studies
Wild
are
speculation.
wild speculation.
In not the too distant future, there's going to be a sidewalk out through there. as
Which was a big motivation for us choosing this location.
You'll be able to ride your bike
Yeah.
as well.
Yep.
I think that's.
And we're planning on having all sorts of incentive programs, like show us your bike helmet and you get a prize, so to encourage people to get to the market in other ways, or show us your bus ticket and get a sticker or something. We're working with NOFA Vermont, and we got a grant to engage in all sorts of information gathering this summer. So we're going to be doing customer counts. We've never done any of that before. So we're really going to try to learn a lot about our market and traffic flow, and where people are coming from and how to reach them, how long they stay, how much they spend. So if we did need to come back because parking is an issue, we would have more information about, like, well, this is when it's the busiest. You know, maybe we are the busiest afternoon and Casellas would work just fine, but we don't know any of that yet. But we will know a lot more a year from now.
Go ahead.
So if I were to make a motion,
Don't do it yet.
Don't.
I want to,
I have an issue with a motion itself, and I don't know if this is when we discuss it. We don't have any definition of a farmer's market in the regulations. What we have is the ability to allow a market for locally grown fresh agricultural products. And I know that there are other stalls that have nothing to do with locally grown agricultural products, and that doesn't bother me. But I don't see that we can have a motion approving a farmer's market without a definition, and I think the motion has to include that agricultural products language. And then if the farmer's market people choose to go beyond that, we have to see what happens. Chances are, given the history of the market, nothing would happen. I don't know what people think about that.
Can you, I'm just trying to think of what's at the farmer's market that's not related to.
Wind chimes made out of dangling silver forks.
Yeah, we have
knitted
crafters, we have,
wood pens.
we're primarily an agricultural market.
Right.
But we have crafters, we have prepared foods.
But I think given the authority that the regulations give us, we should stay within that authority rather than having a motion to approve a farmer's market where we don't have any idea what we mean by that.
Well, we know what it means, it just doesn't include some of these other things.
Right,
so.
but if, for example, to go to the Rouse Tire application that comes up next, you know, we have a link between these large tires and agriculture. Well, I can foresee some situation where the farmer's market could conceivably have someone who wants to sell something to which we would object. And if we approve a farmer's market without any definition of what that is, we wouldn't have any real basis for disputing that and controlling that.
Can I question you, Ann? Mm-hmm. You're saying the motion should include the language that we have?
The language in section 782, which allows us to do this.
Okay.
Which is
that's okay
the
with me.
stuff about fresh agricultural products.
Yes, makes sense.
And that way, if Ralph starts selling tires there and the farmer's market decides that's fine, we can say something about that. Because
Okay, but is the intent of that wording in this particular case to prohibit other kinds of?
no,
Okay.
it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't, and I wouldn't
Okay,
want
that's
to do that.
Only if there's a complaint.
But it covers we're giving permission to do what we're allowed to give permission to do. If the permittee decides to go beyond that, that's,
I agree with what you're saying. It's kind of
Okay.
like the parking thing. They'll get there and
Right.
figure it out. I don't think the
Right.
farmer's market's going to be overtaken by wind chimes and.
no, I know, and I don't either.
I
And
get
even
that.
if it
So
was,
let's
I'm
go
not
with the
sure it's
wording
an
that we.
issue.
Let's
but
go with the wording that we have, and that'll cover it.
In the
and
section.
Let it sort,
Yeah.
yes.
Could you read that, please? What you think is the?
The motion would be approve this conditional use request to add a market for locally grown fresh agricultural products as a use at 530 Exchange Street.
He was wondering what this.
Oh, in section 782, the DRB may grant conditional use approval to allow a commercial fruit and vegetable stand for the sale of locally grown fresh agricultural products or Christmas trees in districts other than the AR or in other commercial zones.
You know, I actually thought through this when I was writing this memo, if you want me to weigh in at any point.
Sure, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so It would be nice if the motion had a use that we could actually look up in the definition section and it stated exactly what the use was. And the majority of the time, we have that luxury. It so happens, like Ann says, there's not a use in the definition section for farmer's market. What there is this sort of description that says, that red flags me that I need to have you guys approve conditional use for any commercial fruit and vegetable stands that sell locally grown ag products in 782, which is why I had to require you to get a permit. Actually, a conditional use review. And so when I wrote it, I was like, well, should I use that wording and then also take retail from our list of uses and then have it that in retail? Well, then it gets kind of clunky. If you do that, then technically, I mean, if that's your motion, then technically they can't be selling those other things there. And I don't want to create that situation for them. So in your motion that the DRB passes, I suggested just saying that you guys pass a farmer's market, knowing that you would have had a whole conversation about what a farmer's market is that will be recorded in the minutes. And then when I write the written decision, I can say that the application was for a farmer's market, and I can say in the findings of fact what that involves. So it'll be defined in the decision, like in the findings of fact, about what it was that you actually applied for. And then if I say that the use was approved as that and some retail, having defined what I meant by that in the findings of fact of what you guys are calling a farmer's market, then I feel like that should cover us. Better than having you guys pass a motion that doesn't cover everything. That would be bad.
That's good.
In retrospect, I should have put our bylaws in our application.
In retrospect, we should have changed the zoning. So we've got work to do.
still can.
We got to add a definition for farmer's market. We got to add a provision for a sign like this, which makes total sense when you've got an accessory use on a property that has like a very different primary use, you know? So it's good to have projects like this because it helps us change things in the future.
So I'm sensing that possibly the sign could be a possibility like a year
Yeah,
from
it's
now?
probably a year out because we're working on zoning regulations through the summer, but let's stay in touch about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, if it puts your mind at ease, we have very strict regulations about who vends at the farmer's market, and we aim to be a 70% agricultural market. Am I right about that? So we don't intend on being a
Can
craft
you-
fair.
Can you
So-
provide those bylaws to Jennifer so
Absolutely.
that
Yeah, good idea.
Yes.
that would be guidance for drafting the order that Kevin will sign?
Absolutely, yep, yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board at this time?
I just need clarification as to where we're at right now, because I'm not sure I understand moving forward on this
Well, we're
motion.
having a discussion among the board members, and I'm soon to open it up to the public for public comments.
I don't
And-
think that
and then-
helps us.
I don't think that helped me, but.
Okay, and then we're gonna have, after we hear the public comment, then we'll have a final discussion with our board. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat.
I think you're approving the market based on the language that you have, and we're going to submit our bylaws so that you can expand the zoning definition of what a farmer's market is.
So I'm hearing the sign is off the table.
Sounds like the sign is off the table, but not dead, just, not dead, just
And
delayed.
sandwich boards are to be used only in the day of the event, so Tom Scanlon has to start running around on Tuesday picking up.
Correct.
He's our
You
zoning
know what?
administrator.
Right, I mean,
But they can have their temporary signs as they request prior to the day, can't they?
Yeah, as long as we meet those calendar
Yeah.
deadlines that are in the
Right.
regs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's already defined in the regs for temporary
Yeah.
exempt signs. That's,
Okay,
Tom
No more than
Scanlon loves
45
those
days in
signs.
a year.
45 days in a year,
Yeah.
that's right.
okay. At this point, are there any questions from the public on
I
this?
have something here before you go.
You're not supposed to, you shut me up.
I'll get you after the public. Any questions from the public? Comments? Concerns?
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we need to apply for a permit for that 45-day temporary sign use? No.
What do you got?
No.
If Victor says no, then it's no.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing nothing from the public, Gary?
The final thing was, you have a time squeeze.
Thank you, part 3 of our
Yeah.
request.
I don't mind, but none of that's gonna fall on the town in any way, is it? If it blows up?
Right, so things can happen within the 30-day appeal period on the DRB decision, but, it would be like a proceed at your own risk, which in your case, it's not like you're building a structure or something.
Right.
So,
No.
yeah, so that's how that works. But then as far as the permit, that's a little trickier, because we would issue a permit, and then there's a 15-day appeal period on the permit itself. So technically, nothing is supposed to happen before the effective date of the permit. But we're only off by like 3 days there, right? So,
15 days.
I don't know.
So again, we can't vary that,
Well,
but
by the time I put a notice of violation together, maybe it would have already clicked if you guys are okay
Drag
with
your
that.
feet.
If
just-
you notice any
I'm a slow
zoning
writer.
violations on the site in the next couple of weeks, be sure to bring them up at the meeting here.
That works. That
And
sounds
we'll direct you whether or not we think we should address it.
reasonable.
I just envision that you people are gonna be very successful in your new location. I think it's a great place to drive to do what you gotta do. I'm only worried about the overflow parking if you are that successful. But I don't want Tom Hanley calling Jen up and say, Memorial Day weekend, I had cars both sides of the road and the tractor trailers coming out of Agamar. We're not pleased with that. I think you're gonna,
So you're gonna have to pay attention to that,
yes.
more than Hanley.
Yep.
You may need a
Absolutely.
designated parking person to.
yes.
Yeah, you might
I
need a
was
crossing
thinking
guard.
about that. I mean,
Yes.
maybe you have someone who could wear an orange vest and direct people, at least for the first
Yeah, I
few
think
busy Saturdays,
Yep.
till people get the idea.
if it gets to a certain point, and you realize that, things are getting a little crowded, then maybe it'd be the time for someone to,
Yep. I didn't mention the letter, but we do have a paid market manager position. So she could be definitely on the ball about that.
yeah.
I know I will go to your farmer's market where I wouldn't go before.
Yep.
That's
me
great
I
to
can
hear,
tell you
Mr.
that.
Keeler. That's great.
Well, then Don can cross people.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people like me too. If we can't drive to it, we're not gonna go to it.
Well, I think that we will still be exploring overflow parking lots. We have been and will continue to. And I hope we are as successful as you think we're
I
going
think
to
you
be.
will be. I think we should too.
I think the
Be
whole board
overwhelmed.
is, I believe I speak for most people here when I say that we're all mindful that the parking situation on its worst day in Exchange Street is a dramatically better situation than you guys have been dealing with.
That's what
many
Hanley
years.
Marks, yeah.
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 Okay, any other questions at this time? Jen,
Yes.
the motion that you've proposed, does this, do we need to mention something about not approving the sign in that motion, in the motion, as you've written it? Since the sign was part of the application?
Do you want to just withdraw the sign portion of the application for now? Or do you want them to deny it outright?
Let's withdraw.
Okay. Good, then we don't have that in our minutes for next time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
That's fine.
That's cleaner.
You guys agree with that?
Do we need to note that in the motion?
No, we'll put it in our minutes.
Okay, all right. Okay. Are we ready
Because
for?
I understand where you're coming from with that.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I think, Jennifer, you want the motion to have the words farmer's market in it, right? And
Yep.
then you'll define that in the decision.
Mhm.
I think Ann should make the motion.
Sure.
I'm not making it with those words in.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I'll make it. I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of April 24th, 2017, approve this conditional use request to add farmer's market as a use at 530 Exchange Street.
Do we want to put in reference to,
Is there a second to that motion? Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion.
do we want to include,
Well, if Ann still feels that way, we could do something like farmer's market to sell locally produced ag products and small and craft items.
I don't think we have that authority, but I'm willing to approve the motion. I just didn't want to make the motion, because I think it's, but if you can put appropriate things in the order, which is what you're saying you will do,
Right.
then I don't have an issue.
If you're worried that farmer's market is too vague, what if you said Middlebury Farmer's Market? And then,
We're gonna get there, bylaws.
We're going to, it's going to be spelled out with the assistance of your bylaws, and Jennifer and Kevin will
when you
make the
address
order.
the zoning, okay.
So
Well, actually,
what,
when we write the decision.
so when you,
Okay.
so what we pass in the motion today doesn't give you the freedom to determine what a farmer's market is, because the order will have parameters for that. Right?
Which doesn't require a change to the motion, right? I mean, that's
Right.
why I
That's
put
right.
out that motion.
Further discussion of the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
When's your first day?
May 6th.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure. We're going to have a 5-minute recess.
Stealing.
Okay. Second business agenda, an application by John Rouse for conditional use and subdivision review of a proposal to perform a minor subdivision and construct a warehouse on a parcel owned by Foster Brothers Farms. This property is identified as parcel number A107H and is located at the end of Wilson Road in the ARD district. Okay. If you would like to introduce yourselves and then tell us, yes.
Could we get Jen to give us an overview of the design advisory meeting on Friday before we move on this? Please.
Not before I administer the oath.
Okay.
For the applicants and anybody who would like to have comments today, the oath is, I affirm that the evidence and information I am giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief.
I do.
Okay,
I do.
thank you. All right. Okay, Donald, you would like a report from the DRB, is that correct? Before-
Design advisory.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we reviewed the lighting, and Tanner will tell you about the lighting, but, let's see, it's just on 2 sides of the building, 3 poles on the access road. One of the recommendations they had was to reduce the color temperature a little bit, which the applicant was okay with. And, they asked about, timing and hours of operation, which we'll go over here. I think the other main thing they talked about was the building and how the building was designed, you know. Tanner will tell you that an architect came and sort of designed it so that it would fit with the contour of the landscape, so it's like a little bit squatter and it fits with the lay of the land a little better. And when they reviewed the colors, so the side is this evergreen green color, and then the roof was like a mill finish aluminum. So they asked about, you know, if it was going to glare into Route 7, and the answer was that it would probably dull over time, you know, just sort of weather naturally. So Natalie said, let the DRB know it looks good. And then the rest of the DAC agreed with that. I don't remember any other significant comments, do you? So they were happy with it.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. Okay, now,
John Rouse, and I'd like to thank the board for hearing my application for the warehouse. With me tonight, I brought Tanner Romano from Naylor Breen, who's in charge of the project, Tony Stout, Robert Foster from Foster Brothers Farm.
Okay, just a brief description of what your proposal is.
So I included in the packet a project narrative. Hopefully that was helpful. But the quick overview, it's a subdivision of the Foster Brothers property to create a 6.8 approximately acre lot for John to construct a 40,000 square foot storage facility. The facility is to house and inventory tires from his current operation. There will not be any operational use there in terms of changing tires. That'll still remain at his current facility. This is just to handle the overstock. One of the big items that's come up a couple of times, we've gone through this with Jennifer and Victor quite a bit, is the different view sheds for the positioning of the building, as Jennifer mentioned, trying to get it to set down in. So if you go to V1.1, which is the drawing that came as a supplemental part of the package tonight, that shows you different view perspectives. They're labeled with a little camera. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can see from Rosie's or Martin's, the tennis facility, and up Wilson Road. And those correspond to the drawings in the very back of the packet to try and give you an illustration of what it's going to look like, how it's going to fit into the property. And we'll, I'm sure, get into that as you have other questions. As John mentioned, Tony Stout from Lakeside Environmental's here. Can answer any questions that pertain to Act 250. He's also working on the prime ag soils for us. And as you already mentioned, Jennifer, we already met with the DAC. We got their comments and feedback, and essentially it was a recommendation on the lighting, which we're perfectly happy to do.
We're fine.
I would just have to say that I was impressed with your packet here and how it was put together, because if every applicant came in with something like this, we would not spend our wheels spinning a lot of times.
Well, I thank Jennifer and Victor. They helped coach me into how to put this all together,
Well,
so hopefully it's informative.
It's a great job, so.
Thank you.
I mean, I can keep going, or if you guys want to start with specifics.
Well, we'll see what the chairman wants to do.
Yeah, you can keep going if you have more information you'd like to.
I'm just going to use V1.1 because that's the overall map of both John's existing facility, the proposed, and the area around. The red hashed line around the building is the area of disturbance, so you can see how that corresponds to the tree line. You can see where there's proposed on-site storage. We know that's a question that's going to come up tonight, so we've tried to locate what you can expect for tractor trailers and how they're going to orient themselves in front of the new facility, as well as what's going to be left at the old facility. There's going to be a gate coming up the driveway, which will be set with a keypad style lock that I believe John's already gone over with the fire chief and is accepting of. We're going to position it such that it allows the trucks to get off the road so they're not blocking traffic, but it's to try to secure the facility and prevent people from getting up there.
So the gate is actually gonna be, well, if you take a look at Wilson Road, they will be off of Wilson Road and onto your access road before they have to open the gate?
Correct. Right.
Okay, which makes sense.
And the gate will be open during our business
Right,
hours,
business
8 to
day,
5, yes.
Yeah.
Lighting, hard to see, but you can see them on the drive coming up. There's 3 proposed pole lights, and there's lighting on both the northeast gable end and the west eave elevation. Essentially enough lighting to serve for John's employees and deliveries and such. In the very back of the packet, we did the light cast diagrams that are provided by the lighting manufacturer just to try and show that it stays on the property. And that was one of the things that we went over with the DAC, and they wanted to reduce the color temperature, which we've done. I think that's kind of a general overview.
So the topography of the land allows you to set this?
Yeah, if you go, I wouldn't put it that nicely. It's kind of a tough lot to build on. I'm not gonna lie, but if you go to,
It's not it's not above, there's no arch to that land. I mean, it's like this,
It's a
right?
hill that comes down into a ravine and comes
Right.
back up. So if you go to V 1.3, it's one of the last few in the schematic drawings there. You can kind of see how it's, we tried to nestle it down in so that the loading docks are such that they're
Right.
plus or minus 4 feet below the grade around, just to try and push the building into the hillside.
So really, from Route 7, depending on
So
time of
Next
year,
page.
If you go to the next page, one
you
point,
won't see the building at all from Route 7.
I can't say that that's the case, no. I think you're gonna get a glimpse of it through the trees. If you look at,
Probably won't see it with foliage, right?
I really don't wanna make that promise, because if
Okay,
you
well,
look at,
no, okay.
if you look at the permitting set existing street view from Rosie's, you can see how the wood line is already thin in that perspective. And so then if you go to this V 1.4, we think you'll be able to see the outline of the building through the trees.
If you're spending time trying to find this building, you're gonna get hurt driving down Route
Exactly.
7.
I like that. But we've tried to nestle it down, and we've also tried to twist the building such that we leave as much of these trees as possible. That's kind of why, I don't know if any of you recall when we came in almost a year ago, it was a much smaller lot, but it's actually moved further into Foster Brothers property, which they've been so kind to work with John on getting the size lot that's needed to fit the building on there properly.
I'm just,
As these trees, the trees will be on the lot that's being subdivided out. Will Rouse maintain those trees, meaning when some of them fall over, those will be replaced to continue the screening? Obviously, right now, you don't have a landscape plan because you don't really need a landscape plan.
Right.
But
So you're
presumably in
saying
the future-
if some of these trees,
Yes.
for natural reasons or what have you, die and fade away over time, would John be willing to replace them?
Right.
they're gonna reseed themselves anyway. It's just, it's
Yeah.
forest.
To the extent that that's necessary. I mean, it's not going to be a groomed area, I assume, anyway. So hopefully, as Don says, one falls over, there's already a 6-foot one there that's on its way. But that seems to be an important aspect of the screening.
Okay.
I look at this as a great addition to the community and moving those items that some people find ugly
Right.
off of the
That's the
lot.
reason for it.
Yes.
I have another question in connection with that. When you move all these tires from where you have them now on Willow and on Exchange Street, how much room will be left in the warehouse?
Oh, it's gonna 3/4 fill it. The new warehouse, I presume
Yeah.
you're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that will leave enough space for the foreseeable future expansion of your business, which, given that we seem to be reducing agriculture rather than expanding agriculture, is probably
Safe to
going the
say.
other way.
He may buy less tires too.
True.
You're gonna be recycling, so they're gonna be coming in,
They're
they're gonna
coming
be
in,
going out.
correct.
Yeah. So once you fill the
And they'll all
trailer,
be under a roof. It'll be so much easier for us to maintain and take care of as well.
Are these trailers drawn almost to scale on these diagrams? That's
They
how long they are?
Yeah, those are 58-foot trailers, yeah.
Okay.
It's a 160-foot wide building.
Sorry?
It's a 160-foot gable on the building. What is its height at the gable, by the way, off the ground? Tell that from, I missed that, but.
I don't know if I brought that. It's 12.6 to the eaves, and it's a 3-on-12 pitch, so I could do the math here
Don't do
probably
the
pretty
math in
quick,
front of us.
but
That's okay. I just thought if you had it, it'd be nice to know what the overall height. I assume it's
So 12 feet to the eaves.
12.6 to the eaves.
12.6 at eve, and it's 3.1?
That's from grade, not from the loading dock. So if you were measuring from the loading dock, you'd have to add that 4
Right.
feet.
About 30?
Yeah.
That's what I come up.
Yeah.
Roughly.
nowhere near as tall as like the tennis facility, for example, to put it in perspective.
So John, you're gonna own the property?
Mhm.
So you're purchasing this particular?
From Foster Brothers,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I thought. No issues with Martin's Hardware, they have
No,
nothing,
no.
I mean, no, they're
Everybody
not here
seems,
to comment or whatever.
no, everybody seems to be happy that it's gonna eliminate a lot of congestion that we currently have, as everybody's aware of.
Any other comments from the board at this time? Any comments from the public at this time? Yes.
Victoria DeWitt. I'm really happy to see the project moving forward. It's great. I had a question about, from the aerial photo, it looks like there's no screening between the tennis center and the proposed building. I didn't know if the wall pack lights are shining out, have they got any problem with that?
You're concerned
The
about the
screening from the trees on the road.
It looks like there's no trees between the two parcels back there.
Yeah, if you go to view shot 4 on V1.4, there is a tree line there. You will be able to see through the trees and see the building,
That line
but
goes
there is a
probably all the
hedgerow
way
there.
up the road
Yeah.
to his parking lot.
But a lot of that is spruce and stuff, so the foliage stays green year round. It isn't like maple trees where the leaves fall off, so.
It more than meets the setback on that property line, the property line that it shares with MIT. Yeah. It's 193 feet from the property line,
Yeah.
so it's probably about 170 feet from that corner, which is yet another 30 or 40 feet from MIT, from the entrance of MIT. No, it's probably 60 or 80 feet.
I don't know if I should ask this, but I'm going to anyway. Is there any future growth on this project for adding to that building?
No,
So you've
I'll
maxed,
be retired.
okay. Yeah, but you got a
Pun
son
intended.
too, you remember that?
I understand.
So there's no additional,
No.
okay.
I mean, I don't think he means necessarily what you're planning is. Is there room to add to it, no matter who owns it?
I don't know if you could, without purchasing more, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I'd be, correct me if
I mean,
I'm wrong, but those sideline setbacks are 50 feet. So there's definitely room if somebody down the road wanted to expand, you could.
Okay,
In
that's,
terms of a property setback, that's,
yes, that was what
Is that
my
what you're
question
asking?
was, so, yeah. Okay.
To address the comment that you had, I suppose it would be nice to see landscaping there. On the other hand, I think the benefit to people going to the tennis club of having no view of those tires as they're currently piled more than balances out the need to look at a brand-new building.
No, I understand. I was just, from what I saw of the lighting proposal, is that the wall packs that are not cut off down, they're going out into the
No, I
yard.
think
But
they,
maybe that's not,
They're going
I
down.
thought they were, the
They're going
lighting
down.
is down lighting.
They are downlighted.
Oh, I thought there were wall packs as well.
they are a wall pack, but they're downlit.
The
focus
picture
is-
I saw looked like they were putting out.
The focus is down, but the lens is on both surfaces, so you can tell it's a light, but it's, the glare doesn't come outward like the old-fashioned wall packs.
One other thing that we did, just to, on that same front, this front corner of the building here, at one point, we had parking all on one face. It made the site a little easier to grade out, but in conversations with John and the entire team, we put this back to lawn and turned the parking so it wraps the front corner, specifically to try and help that
Yeah, and it
perspective.
doesn't show it there, it'll all be grass.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, this V11 up there is a little different than the one that's in the packet, and I wasn't sure. And that has the two trailers that are been there for years, and they're not on this one, so I hope that those are gonna go away along with your tires.
No, this new V11 that's presented tonight, after we brought that in, or excuse me, the one that's in your packet, further conversation with Jennifer and Victor, they asked us to locate anything that's going to remain on the site, or, recommended that we should, as well as the new site. So that's what we did. We also updated the limits of disturbance to try and show that. So that's in this new.
Well, those trailers were originally approved as a temporary storage until the building was built. They were never supposed to stay there for the, I don't know how many years it's been now, 10, 15 years. And the way they're crowded in, I can't see the breathing use, so I would hope those trailers are gonna go away. Because they were never permitted as a permanent fixture.
I don't want to speak too much on your behalf, John, but the current plan shows them to remain, as
And
well
that's
as
what we decided.
large tire storage on two sides of the existing facility right here. Trying to hide them all behind the facade of the building to screen them. Here, I have an extra one if you'd like this copy.
So there'd be outside storage.
On two sides of the existing building, correct?
Yep, the larger building.
That's outside storage? Our zoning ordinance doesn't
here
allow
and
for
here,
outside storage
right?
of materials.
Yes,
And,
yep.
it seems like everyone that's at the gym is still gonna look out on more tires. I don't understand why, with this new facility, why you need to continue storing tires outside and those two trailers.
Well, the trailers have customer tires in them, and they've been there, and we chose to leave them on the property. And tires that are gonna go around the building are tires that we use on a daily basis, so they're gonna be coming and going. And it's on the south end and the back of the building only. Everything else we've taken out. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see how temporary trailers are gonna be allowed to stay permanently, and outside storage of tires sort of goes against the whole purpose of this thing, unless they're screened in a way that they're not visible. Because right now, the scrubby, half-dead trees there don't screen anything, so maybe they need a fence built,
Tires come every day.
something to
Well,
keep them out of sight.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Okay. Comments or concerns from the board at this time?
I'm ready to move the motion. So I guess my question is, and I was looking back at this, the applicant here was really Foster Brothers Farm, right? Is that, they're the ones that applied. So just help me through this here, Dan.
Well, John was the applicant, but we have Robert on the permit as the landowner, because he still owns the parcel. This is all,
Okay.
the transaction's all contingent upon getting permits, because obviously the property doesn't do John any good if he can't build a
Yep,
building
I
on
understand.
it.
I understand.
So,
I just want to make sure.
I think we did it properly, but if I confuse things, I apologize.
No, I just want to make sure that what we're doing is moving this project along and not causing some other heartburn down the road here, because
It was my understanding back in May and earlier this evening that all the outside tires were going to be in this new facility.
Because that's what the narrative says.
And that's what it says in the application here. It says, the intent of this project is to allow Rouse Tire ample storage capacity near blah, 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 which will allow them to relocate tires and other materials currently being stored outside of their buildings.
And the next page on relocation timeline.
Yeah.
So
Tires
I'm
come and
confused.
go
why-
every
I'm just
day.
confused why the narrative is conflicting with the site plan now, and I feel like something has happened here tonight that I didn't see coming, so now I've got questions.
You know, Rouse
Okay.
Tire will commit to having all tires stored inside or inside one of the trailers at this facility.
That's all speaking to the new facility. Originally, when I put this proposal together, I was really only talking about this one because I'm not really permitting anything on the existing facility. But in conversations with Jen, I fully understand that people are asking a lot of questions. What's going to happen on the existing facility? How fast are you going to relocate those tires? Is there going to be anything left? And that's when John and I immediately met and sat down and created this plan to show what he can commit to and put a timetable together to commit to it as well.
The new building, correct, will have nothing outside.
Right,
Yeah.
but the idea was to clean up
And that is the idea, yes.
So the tires that will still be outside on the existing property on Willow Drive will be on the side of the building, almost facing the two sides of the building that are pointing towards Route 7.
No.
If you look at this diagram here, there's a green box, that's the building. The gray shadow on the outside shows where
that
he's
corner.
already using
That corner.
for storage, and that would remain. That's what's being proposed.
South and the east.
Right.
It's in full view of Middlebury Fitness.
I mean, John can explain more, but from walking around and talking about his operational business on the site, that's really what's going to exist.
Jen, you had another comment?
Yeah, it's just, so the narrative says, as part of their commitment to this project, Rouse Tire is committing to relocating their outdoor inventory of their existing facility on Willow Drive, as well as their storage facility on Exchange Street, within 6 months of acquiring a CO to use the new facility. So when I go forward to do what I have to do, I'm using that language, but now that language is conflicting with this plan. So I'm gonna need you to like withdraw one or the other, or I'm gonna have like.
We would have to say per the 1.1 overall site plan.
What about Exchange Street? Is like
There
part of
won't be
Exchange Street gonna stay
outside
too?
Exchange Street's gonna be sold as soon as I move into a new building.
There's no
so
issue on Exchange.
Okay, so all of those tires can come over?
There's gonna be a new owner there.
Okay.
so. Exchange Street isn't an issue at all. That's gonna change hands.
And so when you say customer tires, sorry, I just have to ask more questions because now I'm suddenly.
No, that's fine.
Fine.
That was such a
And,
big bill of
and
health
if that's
until
gonna
tonight.
make or break this project, the few tires that are gonna be left outside, you can strike that part of it if it's gonna be, you know what I'm saying?
I just selfishly hate zoning enforcement, so if we can get it cleared up
I
tonight, then I
understand.
don't have to send a letter.
No.
Being totally selfish right now.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So, so the storage trailers have customer tires, so that's people coming to pick up tires?
Correct.
Okay. And so the turnover of the ones like around the building, you said is pretty quick because you use them every day?
Mm-hmm.
So like you use them on your vehicles around the yard?
No, they're farm tires. They're big farm tires that my service trucks go on site and put on.
Oh, okay. So like at nighttime, you would go and you would pick the tires you needed and bring them over and then like send them out on deliveries during the day?
Yes.
Right. 'Cause
But I
otherwise
mean,
you're-
if this, trust me, this has been going on for a long time, and if that is gonna slow this up at all, I'm willing to strike that out of,
I don't think so. My questions are more like, how quickly are these going to turn over? Like, are they truly a mosquito breeding ground? Doesn't sound that way. It sounds
Which ones are you
like
talking about, Jen?
Again,
Around the
ones around the
building?
building. Am I going down a rabbit hole?
No,
here?
I can understand, but when I drive down Route 7 in Knott Brothers, you got 2,000 tires side the road. I don't want to hear mosquitoes in tires.
I know. I just want to have something to tell people in the office.
I know.
Yeah.
I just,
So yeah, there's quick turnover on there, on those tires. So that shouldn't be a health issue because you've picked them out to deliver them, right?
correct.
Okay. It's important to be able to explain to people and
It's
characterize
screened,
what
yes.
we're looking at.
And they are hidden from the
Not
view.
Middlebury Fitness.
I don't know.
John, give you a loan to put a fence there?
I think.
No, I'll
this
take
is a
them out
big
first. I'll
improvement.
just,
Yeah.
it ain't that big a deal.
Okay,
Gary,
well, it's up to
you had a
you.
question?
So,
Oh, yeah, it's screened, what he's gonna have remaining
May still have some
on
time.
the east and south side,
They didn't touch the ground.
There's trees there. It's,
I assume.
Sorry.
I assume they're, on the south and east side, they're screened with trees.
Yes, they are.
Not on the east side.
Yes, they
Middlebury
are.
Fitness,
There's a whole tree line there. It's about,
but it's all half dead and scraggly. It's not screening anything. unless you put up all new plantings that are evergreen. You don't have any screening. I know, I look out that window several times a week at your tires.
Right?
Can I ask a
Is there
question?
anyone here from Middlebury Fitness that has a question?
No,
I
they
mean,
didn't
anyone
even
that
know about
owns
the
Middlebury
project.
Fitness?
So I'm sorry to kind of commandeer this portion of the conversation, but this is a zoning enforcement conversation, kind of, that I'm just trying to piggyback on your hearing. Because if we've got like a little agreement in the minutes, then I don't have to send notices of violation or anything. So it's not true that outdoor storage is completely prohibited by our zoning. Outdoor storage is allowed by the zoning as long as it meets the setbacks from Route 7. I mean, we've got it all along Route 7.
Right.
So this meets the setback, and I understand that it's quick turnover, so I'm not particularly uncomfortable with it. Like, I don't know if anybody else has an issue.
Just add one more thing.
What's that?
John's intent is to try and locate everything he can up here, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But he still has inventory, that he's working with on a daily basis. That's what this
I
storage
just
is.
want my hands tied.
I'd rather
Right.
have you be
So
realistic.
this
than
is probably
overpromise.
my fault,
understand.
Jen, when I heard from you that we need to make sure, and I understand, show a plan that
Yep.
there's potentially anything going to be left on site. That's why we shaded those areas.
I'd rather have you be realistic than overpromise.
Right,
this
so
is
that's
good
what
to
we're
know.
And that's
trying to
what we
give
were
you a
trying to
plan
do.
so you have something to enforce.
Yeah.
That's what the intent of this was.
Okay.
Yes?
I'm just wondering if these tires are being brought down from the warehouse to the existing site and then trucked off site to be used on farms. Why can't they just go directly from the warehouse to the farm? Why do they have to come down and then be reloaded?
Well, at
to
this
go out?
present time, that's where we load all of our stuff at night. If you go to my place right now, there's 6 guys there loading trucks, and that's where they're doing it.
Okay, but with the new facility, can't they?
I don't
just
have
do
that facility yet, so I can't answer your question like that. To answer your question today, that's why it's done that way today.
Okay, but I'm.
We're talking about 2 different projects.
By
We're
the way-
talking about an existing
By the way,
project versus a
we
new
shouldn't be
project.
having a back and forth
Okay.
between applicants. I mean, that's rough on applicants.
Any other,
Press the chair.
okay, any other questions? You had a,
I was just going to add something to the conversation, just from an enforcement standpoint, to make sure, because I want to make sure it's in the 250 the same way, is during the daytime operations, customers may come in, toss their tires out of their back of their car, they're going to dump them on the parking lot,
Right.
they're going to go in, get service. So during the daytime operations, tires are going to hit the ground.
Yeah.
At the close of the day, all the tires are inside, out of sight, in a van, in a truck, or they're in that L-shaped
Area.
2 sides of that building.
correct.
Period.
Correct, that was the intent.
During the daytime, tires are going to be moving around,
Okay.
So I just don't want there to be a false expectation.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Comments? Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the applicant submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing on the 24th of April 2017, approve this conditional use request to construct a storage warehouse facility at the end of Wilson Road.
There's a mistake in this motion, by the way. I
I'm
forgot to
sorry.
tell you. I was still on that conversation. You guys
Oh.
moved so fast, it's just like, whoa. So staff made a mistake in this motion. Can I just explain it really quick?
Sure.
Okay, so you're concurrently reviewing 2 things right now. You're reviewing a subdivision.
Yep.
And you're reviewing a conditional use. So really, this motion should either be 2 motions where you approve the subdivision and then approve the conditional use, or you can put them in one motion, but let's just talk about the subdivision first. So when I rewrote it, I said, subdivision request to create a new lot with the final plat to be submitted to staff and approved by the chair prior to issuance of a permit. Or you can require him to bring the plat back in here, but I think that's unnecessary.
I would agree.
Okay.
I would agree. Yeah.
And then you could go on to read what I wrote. So I apologize, that makes it hard. But do you want to, here, I wrote it down.
Would you like to reread the motion?
I'm gonna read the motion. Okay, and the subdivision request to create a new lot with a final plat to be submitted to the staff and approved by the chair prior to the issuance of the permit.
Everybody understand the motion? Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Further discussion of the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you have what, 30 days, what's the question? How long before we can start construction? 30 days?
It's only, it's usually working for 30 days. But, yeah, 30 days for the decision.
Right. The next one is the 250, so. Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with your project. Make a lot of people happy. Thank you. Would you like, John, would you like these back? I know you paid a
We're
lot.
over at the bank wants one, believe it or not.
Well, here.
Believe it or not, yeah.
How long
You can
have you
the
had
next
the
one.
tire business on Willow Road?
Since 1985.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So Middlebury Fitness knew what they were doing when they did that. Exactly.
I wanted to say that, though. Okay.
You got my point when I asked.
Yeah.
Jennifer, thank you for your
Oh,
help.
we're not.
Can I get this autograph?
Thanks for sitting on the hot seat.
Next item on the agenda, other business. Any other business?
I would just like to say, May 8th, we have three applications. We have, I don't know if I should tell them, list them, or.
There was
Yeah.
one,
We have a setback waiver for a porch. They're trying to build a porch in their backyard. We have Turning Point at the Greystone Motel. And the third one was a subdivision, was it? Hyder, Eric
Oh, that's
Hyder.
right,
Yes.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hyder
Like a
subdivision.
property out on
Yeah.
South Munger.
And then we may also have something on May 22nd, one or two, so that's far.
Now, can we ask any questions on any of those items at this point?
No,
Okay,
no, you can only talk about agendas and setting agendas.
Gotcha. okay. Other business?
But we can talk to you privately about these, can't we?
I
No?
think so, as long as we don't cross that ex parte communication line.
Thank you.
Which I'll be very careful about.
Do you think the setback
Kevin?
and the subdivision could
John.
come before
wanted
the
to ask-
turning point?
Get Jen's attention,
Or
but-
is there some way it has to be?
I think I put them before on the agenda.
Yeah, I think Turning Point comes last. on the
Yeah,
agenda.
I put-
Yeah,
I
if
put
I
Turning
remember
Point
right,
on
I looked at the advertisement in the ad.
the setback first.
I felt the other two applicants might be closer.
Yeah, that'd be quicker.
Do you want to,
John has a question.
Sorry, he said other business, and I just wanted to ask, how do we stand, or where do you think stand with Deniker Chevrolet?
so Mike Capra came to me
Yep.
and said, I moved over 90 vehicles to Virgins, I did this, I did that, and I checked it out, and it looked better in terms of the overall number of vehicles and how many were in front of the building. So I issued the certificate of occupancy to get him out from under his construction loan, which is fair. We don't want any damages or anything. We're not trying to be mean. But I did put, several different, things that we're still looking for in the conditions that go with that certificate of occupancy. So his deadline is June 1st for getting us an application about what's going on with that back lot. I think that's the big issue right now.
Okay.
Also, Mike is checking with his lighting supplier. I gave him some lighting levels that we had sort of measured in the field using a meter we ordered on Amazon, and they didn't look right along the front. So his supplier, Peck, is supposed to get back to us with an explanation for why that might be.
Cool, okay, thanks.
And I haven't seen any more car carriers, so.
If the Luna met
Looked a lot
the design
emptier
advisory,
today
that's
than
what
it
they
did last
approved.
week.
Yeah. But Tom, I haven't talked to. Mike has been super responsive.
Good, they had a huge sale over the weekend.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I don't know if they,
Any other business?
Yeah, I was just gonna follow up on the lighting at Deniker, because Gary and I were having a side discussion. Do we have any expertise that when these applications come and they tell you what the lighting's gonna be? I mean, the Deniker lighting met all of the discussion we had about even the design advisory, and as Gary and I were just saying, it's bright.
Right, so fortunately, they gave us a lighting plan that went with that, and it showed us the number of lumens,
Yeah,
all across the
right.
photometric plan. And so we went out there with an actual handheld meter.
Right.
Tom Scanlon went and measured in all different places in the parking lot. And some checked out, but the ones along the front were way higher than they showed on the
That's
photometric
what I
plan.
thought, yeah.
And so Tom thought maybe it was some reflectivity off the white building. I mean, he wasn't sure. And I ran it past an architect or two, and they weren't sure either. So when architects don't know, we send it to the supplier.
But you're measuring and they promise an illumination level.
What's that?
You're measuring and they document for you an illumination level, whether it's
Yeah.
coming from bounce or
Yeah, it doesn't matter
fixture.
where it's coming from.
Right.
Now it's up to the supplier to explain to us why it didn't install the way
Or
they
change it.
promised.
It's black magic, those guys.
So, it's not the output, it's the total, right? The total output and reflection, and
I would think that's what they're documenting on their
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read the fine print.
Anything else?
Do you care to deliberate about any of the conditions, or, I mean, I feel like I got a good sense of what you guys wanted tonight. I'm just thinking in my head real quick about that last discussion, if there's anything that you want to specify to me, or, yeah, I think we were good.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
have any
we-
questions.
So it's,
No.
it's an uncomfortable, like, are we bargaining for what's happening on the, right, we are.
Right, it's a hybrid issue, like, that's enforcement, and then you guys are working on, right?
So I had a factual question during the hearing, which I don't think would tell me to vote one way or the other, but are the two storage trailers on the existing site a zoning violation, or are they the two that were pointed out in the northwest corner?
They're
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They've been there
very ugly.
since, almost 20 years.
Could he be grandfathered in?
Well, we approved it tonight, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
That's just a comment.
That's why I'm asking, is I wasn't aware of it being, zoning violation has been there as long as I've been in this town, and
Victoria has some great institutional knowledge. So, she was probably on the DRB when that was approved temporarily, so.
he was on the planning commission.
Planning Commission?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would assume.
yeah. So it would be worth my time to check that. Unfortunately, the file isn't as complete as it should be.
And also, if you think about certain restaurants registering trailers and leave them beside the road for advertising, so all John Rouse has to do is register those trailers. Pay us $15 and motor vehicle, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
So I wouldn't want to fight the fight on those, because there's a lot of them around.
not looking for a fight.
New Haven is thinking about taxing all of those
Sides.
trailers and those portable ones, where they drop on your thing.
Storage container?
Yeah, they're actually thinking about
Any other business?
levying a tax on them.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Moved and seconded, further discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Cut the tape.